Hi everyone, so today's video is about is it time to leave the relationship? Before we get to that, what I want you to do is just take your mind back to when you first met your partner, back to the time when everything was new and fresh and exciting. You couldn't wait to see them, you was always having sex, you couldn't wait to touch them, to smell them. There was no such thing as a red flag, everything was a green flag. The anticipation, the desire, the passion, you just couldn't get enough of each other. Then we skip forward 18 months, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years later and onwards, to where you're now at a point of thinking, do I want to be here in this relationship? Something to kind of bear in mind is that the beginning of every relationship, when a connection happens between two people, everything ultimately is based on chemical reactions within our brain. So it's all to do with dopamine hits, cortisol levels, oxytocin levels. It's all to do with them kind of reactions to that other person. So in studies show that it's around about 18 months to 2 years that these chemical reactions tend to wear off, and we're in effect back into our kind of normal frame of mind. I personally think, this is on average, and I think the average has actually come down in recent years due to the power of social media and the negative impact it can have on quite a lot of relationships. So I would say on average, at 15 months, you will have two people that have been in the honeymoon period as we know it, and then the love chemicals and the fog, so to speak, dissipates, and then you have ultimately the chemicals do wear off around this period of time. So one of the things as a side note may well be that yourself, or you may know somebody who's always in a relationship for 6 months, 12 months, then they come out of it quickly another one because they've become addicted to the dopamine hits that relationship, that connection gives them, without ever learning to be by themselves and figuring out who they really are and what really makes them happy. They're just addicted to these chemical reactions, which obviously is not good for yourself. So you may well be watching this video on the back of a relatively short relationship. I'm wondering, is that you? Are you somebody who's addicted to the chemicals of what a new relationship brings, the love drug, the love chemical, and so on and so forth? So that's something to initially consider, and if so, then realising it and then reflect on it is certainly going to help. But it may well be that you may need to speak to a professional. You may need to go to counselling or therapy to explore it a little bit more. You may be able to explore it with friends, family, those around you. But for something on a deeper level, it may well be that. Asking yourself, are you now feeling stuck? If it's beyond the 15 months, 18 months, 2 year point, are you now thinking to yourself, feeling to yourself that, are you stuck in the relationship? Do you feel that it's drifted beyond no return? Or is the relationship actually pretty toxic? Has it become that way? And again, ultimately, are you thinking, do I really want to be in this anymore? I can't handle it. Enough's enough. So some of these questions are kind of what you'd be asking yourself, but then also taking into the mix other outside contributing factors. Things like the cost of living crisis. Are you with a partner based on that in some capacity, and what capacity? Again, uncertainties around employment as well. What's the dynamics of the relationship now? Now, all the love chemicals, was to say in a broad term, have wore off. One of the issues that we do have, both for better or for worse, is as human beings we do long for a connection. And depending on the attachment style that we formed in our childhood, I will probably do a video on attachment styles, a separate one, but depending on the attachment style that we formed in childhood. So if we've had an example, if we've had a relatively abusive relationship with our parents, any kind of abuse within childhood, sometimes we see love and connection in that, and then let's replicate that with a partner, and we will actually accept an abusive relationship because that is what we view as a connection, because it's the only thing we know, it's the only thing that we're used to. So it's it goes alongside the thing of, why is it I always pick, because you may say to yourself, and you've said to your friends and family, why do I always seem to pick the wrong ones? Why do I always pick them? But it's proven that it's to do with our attachment style. So that's something potentially to look at as well. So the relationship you're in could be a toxic one, it could be a negative one, but it could be the one that you're inadvertently searching out because it's what you feel as though you're used to. But then there's an element part in the conscious part of your brain that understands that that's not what you want, but it's being driven by the unconscious part of the brain due to the attachment style, due to what you view as love and as connection. So again, that's something to potentially look at. So I'll probably do a video on attachment styles, but that's probably something you probably need to look at within therapy with someone to explore that, help identify what your attachment style is. The identifying of what it is a big step forward, because then you can start to see what you're doing and understand why you're doing it. And when you start to realise that, you can start to unpick the choices that you're making, because you know more conscious and more aware. So that's where that's at. One of the things to kind of do moving forward is, you're watching the video now today, so there's probably an element of interest and intrigue, both by way of it may be something that's a question you're actually asking yourself. It may be where you're at now in your life. You may know somebody else who's at this point in life, and this may hopefully maybe give a little bit of information as to maybe, trigger something in your mind to maybe pass on or to deal with yourself. But it's all about taking stock in the minute, putting your foot in the sand, so to speak, saying, right, where am I at now with everything? I need to get an understanding of what I want and where I'm at with everything. Now, on the back of that, you may well go and speak to friends and family about it. The downside, or possible downside to this, is that you've had these conversations with them before, to the point where you've spoken negatively about partner previously, and you do know when you do speak negatively to them about this, you can almost envisage what they're going to say. Oh, good, I never liked him or her anyway, or well, I'm glad you leave them because I always felt this and I always felt that. So you know their opinion beforehand already. So that's a possible downside to it. Or they may well be very supportive and help you to just reflect and get an idea of where you're at. But again, that's where professional help comes in on the back of relationships, because again, that gives you that space that you can kind of go in there and you can be completely honest with a sense of no judgment, and it won't be a therapist turning around and saying, well, yes, you should leave. It'll be a place that you can kind of just let your thoughts and feelings out honestly, and you can really sit with them and think about them and reflect on them and help you kind of decide what is your way forward, whether it's with them, someone else, or whatever that looks like. The other thing to think about is, when being in therapy as well, is not only will it help you with regards to your relationship, but with a good therapist or a good counsellor, they will also help you strip you back a little bit to who you are, help you to maybe understand why you are making the decisions that you make within the relationship, and the things that you do yourself, and help you to look at the relationship maybe with a different lens. So for example, it could be that, and this certainly does happen, it could be that the relationship is actually pretty healthy, but the lens you've now started to look at it is because you've been spending a lot of time maybe on social media, and it's become a little skewed as to what a relationship should look like due to all these different things that you're seeing online, and convincing yourself that this is maybe what you should be having, when in actual fact everything, the vast majority of things online, as we know, are not authentic at all. It could be that your friends are seeing things online, or someone you speak to them about your partner, and they may well be more influenced by social media, and then passing them and projecting them passing them thoughts and feelings about the relationship based on their view of social media. And if you trust them, then it's a skewed opinion ultimately. So that's something to be, again, reflective and aware of as to where these thoughts and feelings are coming from these outside places. Because they may well have the best intentions completely, but if they're not right for you, then it doesn't matter how good the intentions are. It's all about helping you come to the right decision when all's said and done. And then once you kind of have an element of where you're at, then you come back to some of the questions of, are you feeling fulfilled as a person, as a being within this relationship? If I am, okay, that's good. If not, can I be still fulfilled in this relationship? Is there a way to be fulfilled in this relationship? Do I feel respected in this relationship as well? Is that going to change? Is there something that can, if not, is there a way around it? And is this relationship helping me grow as a person? But likewise, am I helping somebody else grow as a person? Am I the one that's now no longer contributing the way that I used to? Am I doing something differently this time? Is my energy gone? Why are the reasons that I'm not contributing the way that I did? Am I wanting out? And I know when I reflect and look at what I'm bringing to the relationship, I don't bring what I used to. And is this because I'm pretty much ready to go? Again, this is an honest thing, because again, we've got to be fair, but initially obviously on yourself, but then also the partner, if they're more of an innocent party in this. Another really big strong indicator when it comes to the ending of a relationship, and this was discovered by the Gottman Institute, which are based in America, and they've done hundreds, thousands of studies where couples are concerned, and what they determined with a 93.6% accuracy, they could determine what couples were going to get divorced based on the stages that they did the studies on the relationships. So they would determine with 93.6% accuracy who would be ending the relationship, who would, which ones would break up. And one of the main attributes of the ones that did end, these four things are now have been coined the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, loosely based on the Four Horsemen of Apocalypse from the Book of Revelations. If you're a biblical student of sorts, the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse in the Bible is a sign of the end of the world. The Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse in a relationship is ultimately the sign of the relationship. Now, these four things are criticism, being critical, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. So it's the four things that are in the relationship. Now, any one of these can be in a relationship at any one time. All four could actually be in the relationship at some point. The key is them being consistently in the relationship. When these four things are there all the time, then there's a very good chance that no matter what you do, putting my couples therapist hat on, there's a chance it could be saved. But I say it's a chance. There's no magic wand with couples therapy, but there's a chance it could be. But when the four things there's a very good chance that it's ran its course and it's at its end. I mean, just to quickly run over them, being critical is, as it sounds, you'd be saying to your partner, or they'd be saying to you, you don't do this right, you don't do that right, why don't you do it this way, why don't you do it that way? And that's a constant. Contempt would be when you're being personally insulting to your partner, or them to you, and that's a regular thing. There's a lot of personal insults with an intent to hurt. Now, so that can happen from time to time in anger and one-offs and here and there, but when that's consistent, that's another sign. The third one is defensiveness, so it's nobody taking accountability for what's happening. It's always, yes, but you did this. Well, because you did that. Only because you did this. Only because you said that. Well, I'm not doing it because you're not doing it. It becomes a very tennis match like form of communication between you both. And then the fourth one, stonewalling, is probably the most corrosive and the worst of the four. And that is when you or your partner just ultimately shut down when it comes to arguing. You or them are at a point of, you just don't care anymore. You've kind of given up, and the whole thing of whatever, So hopefully these are some points that have helped to look at things in the relationship a certain way, to help you just have some additional information with regards to, is it over, is it not? But one of the things, like in finishing, is to think of a relationship when it's not working for you. It's kind of like wearing a pair of shoes that are 2 sizes too small. Initially, you think, well, this is quite doable, but before long, the pain becomes way too much. And the point being is that there's nothing better than a nice, comfortable pair of shoes. So don't wait until your feet are bleeding and you're in too much pain to get a new pair of shoes, to find a healthy relationship. And that healthy relationship can either be fixed, formed with your current partner. It could be eventually with somebody new. Or more importantly, in my opinion, with yourself. That relationship with yourself, for me, is the key, that relationship that we'll always ever have in our lifetime. Once we've mastered that, we will master any relationship with anybody else ever again. So hopefully on that note, that's been informative for you. Please like, subscribe, have a good day, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks a lot.